The Ethiopian Bible is the oldest Bible. The oldest copy of the Ethiopian Bible, which is full in terms of a Genesis to Revelation copy, is 14th century.
Priests and lay worshippers in Ethiopia are on a mission to replicate or even recreate centuries-old religious manuscripts and sacred artwork in efforts to preserve traditions.
Long before it was the religion of the Roman Empire, it was the religion here in Ethiopia. Ethiopia was the first Christian kingdom in the world.
Everyone's obsessed with the miracles of Jesus, but nobody talks about what he was doing as a teenager. The Bible is completely silent about his life during those 18 years. It's a total void. But Ethiopia has guarded a massive secret for over 2,000 years. They possess the oldest and most complete Bible on the planet, and it fills in the blanks.
This is a rare Ethiopian Orthodox Bible manuscript, handwritten in Ethiopia's sacred liturgical language.
These texts describe a young Jesus who didn't wait until 30 to show his power. He was already changing the world as a child. But the mainstream church simply won't comment on these explosive findings. Bible's secret 18-year void. The story of the most famous man who ever lived has a massive gap that most people just skip over. We get the beautiful scenes of his birth, the wise men, and the star. Then we see the family run to Egypt to stay safe. After that, everything goes quiet except for one single moment. When he's 12 years old, his family goes to Jerusalem for a huge festival. It's crowded and busy with thousands of people everywhere. When the festival ends, his parents start the long walk home, thinking he's just hanging out with his friends in the crowd. They travel for a whole day before they realize he's gone. It's every parent's worst nightmare, and they race back to the city in a state of cold panic. They search for 3 whole days in the heat. Finally, they find him in the temple. He's not scared at all. He's sitting with the smartest teachers, and everyone is amazed by what he knows. His mother is upset and asks why he did this. His reply is cryptic and chilling. He asks why they were looking for him and says he must be in his father's house. After that, he goes home and is obedient. Then the timeline just flatlines. There's not one word about what he did from age 12 to 30. It's an 18-year hole. When the story starts again, he's a grown man getting baptized in a river. We're missing the part where he grows up and learns his trade. Most scholars say he just lived a quiet life in a small town. They say he was just a carpenter and nothing special happened yet. But that answer feels pretty cheap. How does a simple worker suddenly start speaking with such massive authority? People have guessed he went to India or even Britain with his uncle. Some think he studied in the great libraries of Egypt. Others believe he lived in the desert with a group of monks called the Essenes. These are all wild guesses because the Western Bible doesn't say a thing. It's like the world's most important biography is missing the middle chapters. But here's the deal. The silence might not be because nothing happened. It might be because the stories were too intense for the people in charge. What most people don't realize is that one country claims to have the missing pieces. The answers aren't in the desert, but are locked away in a kingdom of mountains. Ancient secrets of the Ethiopian Empire. To understand why this is happening, you've got to look at Ethiopia. It's a place that's not like anywhere else on Earth. Its history with the faith is older and deeper than almost anywhere else. While people think missionaries brought the religion to Africa later,
This isn't a religion that was imposed on Ethiopia by missionaries. This is homegrown Christianity.
Ethiopia's connection is actually biblical. There's a story in the Bible about an Ethiopian official who gets baptized right at the start of the church. This means they were there from day one. The ancient kingdom of Aksum was a world power just like Rome or China. In the 4th century, around the year 330, their king made the faith the official religion. This was years before the Roman Empire did the same thing. This wasn't something forced on them. It was a choice by a powerful and independent nation. The most important part is that Ethiopia was never truly colonized by Europeans. While the rest of the world was changing and editing their history, Ethiopia stayed independent. They kept their language and their traditions safe in high mountain monasteries. These places became like time capsules for the ancient world. While popes in Rome were deciding which books to keep and which ones to throw away, Ethiopia just kept everything. They didn't care about the politics of the West. This led to them having a Bible that's much bigger than the one you've probably seen. Instead of 66 books, their Bible has 88. That's 22 extra books that the Western world ignored or tried to destroy. These books include things like the Book of Enoch, which talks about fallen angels and giants. Even the New Testament quotes Enoch, so the early Christians were definitely reading it. But the West tossed it out while Ethiopia kept it safe. Their Bible also has stories about the childhood of Jesus that are totally missing from the standard version. They also claim to have the real Ark of the Covenant. They say the son of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon brought it there for safekeeping.
Queen of Sheba. She's the queen of the Aksumite kingdom. Queen Sheba traveled to Jerusalem to meet King Solomon. During her stay in Jerusalem, they become two lovers and they have a baby called Menelik. And Menelik grew here in Aksum.
It's kept in a small chapel and guarded by a single monk who never leaves. This shows how they think. They don't just read history, they believe they're living it. They've preserved the original faith without anyone else's interference. This means their version of the 18 missing years might be the only real one left. This ancient tradition stayed hidden until a shocking discovery proved it was real. Oldest illustrated gospel ever discovered. For a long time, Western experts thought the Ethiopian stories were just legends. They didn't think the books were as old as the monks claimed. But in 2010, everything changed. A team of researchers got permission to visit a very remote monastery called Garima. It's built on a cliff over 6,000 feet high in the air. You have to climb a dangerous path just to get to the door. This isolation is why the books survived for so long. The monks were guarding two massive books called the Garima Gospels. They said a royal from the year 494 wrote them in a single day because God stopped the sun. Experts used to laugh at this and said the books were probably from the 11th century. Yeah, about that. They took tiny samples of the goatskin pages and used carbon dating to find the truth. The results sent a shockwave through the world. The books were actually from sometime between 330 and 650. This makes them the oldest illustrated Christian Gospels in the entire world. They're older than the famous books in Ireland or England by hundreds of years. This means an illustrated copy of the stories existed in Ethiopia while Rome was still falling apart. The illustrations are stunning and look totally different from European art. The people in the pictures look like they're from the Middle East or Africa, not Europe. It's a window into how the very first Christians saw their world. This discovery gave massive credit to the Ethiopian church. It proved their tradition is authentic and very ancient. If they were right about the age of these books, what else are they right about? This brings us back to those 18 missing years. The Western Church wanted a very clean and simple story. They wanted Jesus to start his mission at age 30. But the Ethiopian texts say his power was always there from the moment he was born. He didn't become divine at 30. He was born that way. He was a child trying to handle being God and a human at the same time. This is a much messier and more dramatic story than the one we're told. It shows the raw and sometimes scary truth of his power as a child. The stories inside these books reveal a side of history that was intentionally buried. Terrifying power of the divine child. The stories from these ancient Ethiopian texts are honestly wild. They describe a Jesus who's powerful and sometimes even alarming to the people around him. One of the most famous stories is about the clay birds. A young Jesus is playing by a stream when he's about 5 or 6 years old. He's making 12 little birds out of clay. It's the Sabbath, which is the day of rest where you aren't supposed to work or create anything. A man sees him and gets angry because he thinks the boy is breaking the law. He goes and finds Joseph to complain. Joseph comes to the stream and asks why he's doing this on the Sabbath. Instead of saying sorry, the young Jesus just claps his hands. He yells at the clay birds to fly away. Suddenly they come to life, grow feathers and fly into the sky chirping. This is a huge deal. It shows he had the power of creation as a little kid. Another story shows him helping Joseph in the carpenter's shop. Joseph was a good builder, but he made a mistake on a high-priced order. He cut a piece of wood too short and was in a total panic because the whole thing was ruined. The young Jesus tells him not to worry. He takes the wood in his small hands and pulls it until it stretches like a rubber band to the right length. He hands it back to a shocked Joseph. He wasn't just a carpenter's son, he was the master of the physical world. But get this, some of the stories are much darker. They describe a child who gets annoyed or angry just like any other kid. But when this kid gets angry, things get dangerous. One story says a boy ran into Jesus on purpose, or by accident in the street. Jesus got provoked and told the boy he wouldn't finish his journey. The boy immediately fell down, and his life ended right there. The whole village was terrified and told Joseph they couldn't live with a child like that. Later, Jesus felt mercy and touched the boy to bring him back to life. This isn't the gentle version of the story we usually hear. It's a story of a child with the power of the Old Testament. Another teacher tried to hit him for being too smart, and the teacher's hand just withered up instantly. These stories were way too much for the Western Church. They wanted a savior who was predictable and easy to handle. They didn't want a child who could accidentally break the world because he was still learning to be human. The official church had a very specific reason for keeping these stories hidden away. Vatican's secret policy of silence. So why won't the church comment on this? The silence isn't an accident at all. It's a policy that's been around for 1,500 years. When we talk about the church here, we mean the big institutions like the Vatican. For them, these Ethiopian books aren't a new mystery. They're a closed case. They call these texts apocryphal, which means hidden away. The early church leaders read them and decided to reject them from the official Bible. The main reason is that they're just too weird. They didn't fit the brand they were trying to build. They wanted a unified and stable religion to hold the Roman Empire together. At big meetings like the Council of Nicaea in the year 325, they had to choose a version of the story. They couldn't have people reading about an angry child with superpowers. It didn't look good for the new state religion. So they ordered these books to be hidden or even burned. They labeled them as heresy. For the leaders in Rome, there's nothing to talk about because they already decided these books were just religious fiction. But the discovery in Ethiopia proves these stories were being read by the very first Christians. They weren't just made up later. They were part of the original conversation. Ethiopia didn't care about Roman politics, so they just kept reading everything. They saw these stories as a way to understand the mystery of how God became a man. For them, it wasn't a problem that a child Jesus was powerful and messy. It was the whole point of the story. The West chose a tidy version of history, but Ethiopia kept the raw truth. This leaves us with a choice to make. Is the version we have the whole truth, or are we missing the most interesting parts of the story? It's not that simple, though, because the evidence in the mountains isn't going away. The church might not want to comment, but the 88 books are still there. Could these hidden years change everything we believe about the most famous man in history? What do you think really happened during those 18 years? Leave a comment below, and if you like this video, subscribe to the Unsealed Prophecy for more revelations.